Yeah, feel that rumble underneath your feet. Friday night coming, can't be beat. Cleats on turf, hear the whistle scream. Underneath those stadium lights, living out a dream. Billy Mazo's voice blasting, turn it loud. Cutting through the static, standing proud. Rivals on the mic, breaking down the game from coast to coast, spreading out the fame. Talking trenches, QBs with the cannon on, running backs leaving defenders charming. Who's rising up, who's got that next star shine? We break it down line by brutal line. Let's go! It's Billy Mazo's voice, nationwide sound with a passion for.
All right, we are here for episode 3 of Villamarzo's Voice, and it's the National High School Football Podcast. We're here to talk high school football every week because, let's face it, just never goes away. There's always something going on, right? There's a coach resigning, there's somebody getting hired, there's players transferring, there's private-public debate, there's games that we're excited for the 2026 season. All this is never ending, and you got to have people to talk to about it, right? So we have a great show lined up here for today. We got 3 guys that I feel like know high school football really well. One is one of the top head coaches, I would say, in the country. And we got 2 gentlemen that, they research the game. They're around the game. They know it, nationally, just like anybody else. So we got Brandon Adoy with Football Hotbed. He's going to talk South Florida. And we're going to talk about the Broward County Classic because there's a lot of good games going on. And me and Brandon, we've been kind of going back and forth behind the scenes. We've been like, I don't know. Brandon's he's a South Florida guy, but I know we've been talking about these games. So we're going to kind of debate on it. And we're going to give you a way too early, probably preview on some of this. And then we got Mark Freeman, the head coach of the Thompson Warriors out of Alabama. They're coming off a 7A state championship. Now, they can't win a 7A state championship this fall because there is no 7A in Alabama anymore, but there is a 6A, and they'll be in that. We're going to talk with Coach Freeman about the changes in Alabama and what's going on with the Warriors now they're in spring ball. And then we got Alex Gordon. He's with Top Public 25 High School Football, and you probably see him on socials. You see him posting about public high schools, and you might be wondering, what's this guy about? Well, we're going to find out. We're going to talk to him. We're going to talk a little bit about the public high school football scene and just kind of what he thinks of the private-public conversation. And we'll ask all 3 guys about that and their opinions. But first up, guy, I feel like, heck, I don't know. Maybe we'll get in an argument here. Probably not. But I'm going to bring on Brandon Adoy with Football Hotbed. Me and Brandon, we get, I'll say we get spirited when it comes state championship time. When it's the FHSA. So, Brandon, how are you, my man?
Doing good. How are you, Andy?
Hey, it's another day. It's Sunday, start off the week, and I believe it's the best time to really start talking high school football. And you know as well as I do, things I don't think are any crazier than the state of Florida, but specifically South Florida, right? It's about as hectic down there as it can be anywhere else, right?
Well, the root of all things that you see that are sort of frantic, a lot of times starts in South Florida, and it starts on the youth level. I tell people all the time, I think we invented the transfer portal. So when you have kids that are, posting flyers to change from one youth football organization to another, and that starts filtering its way into high school, and slowly but surely the college rules started, and look, here we are many years later, and what a mess it has become. So it's very unique down here. I will say that.
And Brandon goes, beyond South Florida. He goes to Georgia, he goes to Alabama, he goes to other states. So he does see high school football in other states. So I don't want to make it like he only knows South Florida. But if there's somebody I feel like that really has a beat on the pulse that's going down with South Florida high school football, it's Brandon. And me and you, we've been going back and forth about this Broward County Classic because there is about 10 games, and you got South Florida up against it with some of the matchups. You start on August 21st. It's MacArthur Mandarin. It's a all Florida matchup. So, kind of nothing too crazy there. But then obviously week 2 of the Florida high school football season, that's when the craziness begins, because you got West Broward versus McEachern out of Georgia. Then you got Chaminade Madonna taking on Sierra Canyon out of California. Coconut Creek and True North going at it. So that's a all South Florida matchup the next day on the 28th. Pine Creek out of Colorado taking on Western. Then the next two matchups, you got American Heritage, East St. Louis out of Illinois. Archbishop McCarthy taking on Jacksonville Bulls. And then that final day, you got two doozies. You got Miami Columbus against Bishop Gorman and St. Thomas Aquinas versus DeSoto. So I guess for you, and we've talked about some of these marquee matchups, but I mean, how are you feeling about these?
Well, South Florida's going to be, tested, very well. The talent is not as deep as it has been in previous years of this Broward Showcase. And I've been open to you about how I feel, and this is probably the first time you get a chance to kind of express those views publicly. I think that this is an event that should be contracting instead of expanding based on, what its original purposes were. That purpose, may have been, translated to something different lately. But I thought the goal was to show the power of Broward County football in a relationship to the remainder of the country. Now, I think what you're seeing is it's not so much just the South of Broward County showcase. It's become like a South Florida showcase. And what this showcase can't keep up with is the frantic and transitional nature of South Florida high school football. And so you see that with Columbus being one of the better teams, Carroll City, which is one of the best teams down here, and they're not in this at all. And then you're inviting, Dade County teams to play in a Broward Showcase. And it seems like the organizers do a really good job of getting sponsorships, putting on a great, program show. I know those guys, they do a good job. They don't necessarily have a bead on who's going to be good the coming season. And it's hard to, unless you're really intricately involved, because just a hair raise of a thing can happen. And then all of a sudden, an entire team leaves, like West Broward, who was a state championship, participant, is going to be a shell of itself. I mean, I'm not saying, because I'll walk on the field and coaches say, oh, I heard you said this. Listen, if you need me to motivate you, you're going to lose. I don't mind, being the reason. Don't you put me on the board or whatever the case. I'm telling you the truth. The truth is, you played for a state championship and you lost over 15 guys. That doesn't happen, okay? But it happens in South Florida all the time, and that's why no one outside of St. Thomas Aquinas, and there may be a few others if I'm thinking, strongly. Look at Miami Northwestern, completely different team, state championship contender. Within a minute of winning a state championship, and now the entire team is all over the place. So that's just how crazy it is to play and to work, to cover, and to be a South Florida high school football coach. No one would sign up for it, especially given the fact that coaches do not get paid. You know what I mean? A salary just to be head coaches, and the salary that they do get paid is just paltry in consideration to their counterparts all over the country. And so what these coaches are asked to do, it's tough. So you talk about this showcase, you're bringing in DeSoto. That's a tough game. You're bringing in Bishop Gorman. They're historically good. And then you're bringing in really good programs from other places that are going to challenge developmental or growing programs in South Florida. You don't want this to become a situation where the programs that you're trying to feature become punching bags. And it's the wider you grow it, and of course their politics involved. And I'm not afraid of anybody. Everybody at Broward Showcase knows my telephone number. They can give me a call. I don't answer to anybody. So the reality situation is, what I'm saying is, my concern would be, how many quality matchups can you really field based on the actual performance on the football field? And then what are programs doing in the offseason to have sort of the eyes of something like this? Are they preparing at the level they need to go up against these juggernauts in some cases, and, just really good talent? So, there's opportunities here for programs to make a name, but there are some schools that are absolutely going to have to play their best football.
And kind of following up on that, you're saying, I mean, obviously, and we'll I think I could speak for me and you. Like Kevin Perry and that entire group that helps put this together every year. I mean, they do a tremendous job. So it's
They're
not
great.
it's not anything on
Out of
them,
the
right?
state championship, some Geico things, postseason. I don't know of an in-season showcase that even replicates or gets close to this.
Yeah.
And that's from an organizational standpoint. That's from like an eyes-on exposure standpoint.
Yeah, and there's probably some teams.
Andy, there's some dicey matchups here.
Yeah,
Okay?
no,
And when
I was gonna say.
all you gotta do is point to last season. St. Francis came in against Chaminade. It was just a terrible matchup. You're talking about a team that was just, loaded in the trenches, had, college-like players in the secondary, and it just wasn't the case for Chaminade. Chaminade ended up being a very good team, as they have been for the past decade, made it to the state championship, close loss, but they were not prepared to play the bodies that St. Francis had. You know what I mean? And, that's just kind of what it is.
And do you think, okay, so if they're expanding, and because that's obvious what they're doing, right? They got Dade County involved with this, Broward. I mean, if you're going to just make it beyond Broward, I mean, I'm sure a team like, let's per se, Cardinal Newman, who also beat Chaminade. I mean, they're probably looking at this like, well, hey, I mean, if there's teams like Columbus that are getting invited, I mean, what about us? I mean, we're practically a South Florida team. I mean, why don't we get an invite to the Classic? And I mean, do you feel like also to kind of tie into that? I mean, do you think last year with the state championships, with Northwestern losing and Chaminade losing, do you think that took a little shine off of teams that were, the marquee South Florida teams, and now it kind of, like you said, I mean, it should be contracted a little bit. It should be scaled back to kind of just really showcasing these Broward teams?
I can't speak for organizers, and like I say, Rocky, Kevin, all the people that work with them, Brandon, they do a great job. What I'm saying is I'm here to talk football. I'm not here to talk politics. I don't know what goes into who participates and who doesn't, and I don't really care. At the end of the day, as someone who is in South Florida and kind of cares about the outward facing of what goes on as far as high school football is concerned, like if you're going to put together a showcase, put the best teams on the field. So if you are only going to be able to control that Broward teams play, put the best Broward programs in. And we want a chance, we want an opportunity. We'll earn it on the field. Don't sit there and brag and beg to get in, and then you play a game and get the doors blown off. That doesn't look good. And then you have a lot of people across the search. We went down there, we played this team and we blew them out. We did this, we did that. I mean, you played a team that can't even get out of the first round of the playoffs here. Like that, it's got to be some level of, reality check that's taking place. And we want to see good games. If teams are going to come from all over the country, the game should be played within a touchdown, 10 points at most. It shouldn't be, blowout ridiculous, games like we have, started to see. And I think that when you're in the glory days of high school football, and you could be led to believe that it's going to be like this forever, you got to think about who was playing in this showcase the last several years. There's a guy named Jeremiah Smith. He just happens to be the best player in the country. Malachi Tony played in this. He, as a freshman, went viral talking about check me to a fade and live on ESPN. Like, those guys aren't walking through the door anymore here. We have Nick Lanier. He's probably the best player down here. He's not a part of this. Amir Sears, fortunately, who's the number one player in 28 is. And then you also get, Bryson Wright, who comes down from, Mandarin to play with a Miami commit. So that's a great game to have, and let them play a team. But just overall, I get a little bit skittish about putting teams together, and the matchups may be a little lopsided. But that's just me. Maybe other people just want to play a game. I think of it differently. I do like the week 2 preparation, because playing teams who've already played a game, the equitability is not really there. Now you're putting yourself up against an even tougher crunch. Now, don't cry for South Florida. We've always played a week 0, we call it kickoff classic type game, and that helps. But it's different when you play a game that matters.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, a team like St. Thomas Aquinas in the kickoff classic, they're going to play Cardinal Mooney. So that's definitely going to be a team that helps prepare them. And then week one going into week two, I mean, DeSoto being that team that you'll face in the Broward Classic, I feel like the Raiders are always going to be prepared under Roger Harriet, right? So that's kind of a game.
That's the most reliable team that you can, year in and year out, you can count on them being ready to play.
Which game to you stands out the most? I mean, is it the game we just talked about, or is there another game you're like, actually, I feel like this is the best game?
Yeah, I think so, because DeSoto is kind of climbing out the small little hole that they had a year or so ago where they kind of underachieved, and I think they're kind of back to being DeSoto. And here's the thing, they don't like to travel. So just getting them out of Texas is a big deal. I'd pay to see that just in general. And I was just in Texas. We did a 5-day tour from all the colleges, took some kids around, and kind of got a chance to see South Lake Carroll, some other programs in the Dallas metro area. So at the end of the day, that's, to me, the win is already there. You got a Texas program to walk outside of Texas. That'd be like having coach come from Thompson and participate in South Florida too. I mean, when you can get these elite programs, out of their backyard, now you've already won the victory. So however the game goes is just, icing on the cake.
I mean, hey, that's going to be a great segue to Coach Freeman when I go over to him. So I'm going to have to bring that up. I'm going to have to say, I mean, Brandon just said it. I mean, can we get Thompson for 2027?
I understand. I mean, if I were in their shoes, it would be hard to get me out of Grayson. It would be hard to get me out of Buford. It'd be hard to get me out of Thompson, Alabama. You know why? Because listen, look at how many seats I fill. You know what I mean? I'm feeding families, as they come through the gates. South Florida, we don't have those numbers. You know what I mean? So I get it. I understand it. But it still does make it kind of special. I can count on one hand, maybe two hands, the amount of time I've seen teams from outside of, those Alabama, Texases, and Georgias. Well, not so much Georgia, but Alabama and Texas, and for sure. You don't really see teams from that area coming to play here. You mostly see Georgia. The California teams have been very liberal lately with coming over and playing Bosco and even last year Mater Dei. So because they previously have been very we don't travel type situations like that. Gorman's always down to move around. So, you see that kind of all the time. And I don't know. It's just, it's going to be an interesting year. I think the talent nationwide, and we, at Football Hotbed, we have people who participate in our showcases from all over the country. We have seen this particular class is a little bit lower in the talent. Now, it bumps up again for 28. And the reason I say that, Andy, is because think about it. 2027s actually still have an opportunity to earn Division I scholarships heading into the spring. When's the last time that was actually something that was happening? And I'm talking about at the elite schools. I'm talking about the top 25. Like Georgia's still recruiting people. Miami's still recruiting people, looking at people on boards. And the reason is because this 27 class is not quite what the other classes have been. So I think it's a great opportunity for people to sort of show what they can do and get an opportunity to go to some places that these previous classes since COVID really haven't been able to do, haven't been able to flash late. The deal has already been closed. So thank God for that second portal window going away. Thank God for an increase in funding in these departments, these scouting departments, putting more eyes. Finally, these coaches who don't like to recruit are taking off the road. You get guys who really want to, meet and make relationships and scout kids, not just walk around the building, take a recruiting sheet and head back out of the door. So these are exciting times in high school football.
Absolutely. And I think you and me both know the colleges are actually beginning to very ever so slightly. They're kind of coming around and recruiting high school kids a little bit more than they have in recent years. So it's not a full swing, but there's a little, that trajectory is moving a little bit. And I know we could probably really dig into kind of the recruiting world here, but I mean, I kind of want to finish off. We got a few minutes left. You've been hearing the noise on this. This has been kind of the national debate when we're just talking high school football. And obviously South Florida is, I don't know, I feel like not the epicenter of it, but it does have your mix when you're looking at private, public, and this has been something a lot of states now are butting heads on when it comes to the state governments and the associations is, I mean, should we split them or keep them combined? Obviously, Florida's one of 41 states that continues to combine private and public in their state playoffs and championships. I mean, to you, from what you see all over, not just in Florida, but I mean, do you feel like that kind of nationally or even just on a statewide level, they should think about splitting private and public schools?
Well, I'm not a socialist. I don't think one way of doing things is right for everybody. I think it should be done on a state by state basis. At the end of the day, I'm a person that says, hey, line up and play football. What we know now, because of NIL, because of all of the changes that are happening in college, people are going to move and put themselves and their kids in the right positions to succeed. And that's not going to stop. Whatever the rules are, people are going to get to where they need to get to in order to try to take advantage of that. Some schools in some states, private schools have, the biggest advantage. You take a place like Texas, private schools are weaker. It's a public school haven. That's what it's all about. Alabama is similar. Florida has really strong private school programs, particularly in South Florida. So the conversation has been here like, hey, put them in two different divisions. Make it fair for other people. But fair for what? We've got to come back and dial back from this win state championship or else mentality. What about development? What about getting kids better? What about bigger, faster, stronger? What about helping them to, learn the game and to grow in the game and also learn what it's like to compete against, way more talented type of situations? It's not just about football. It's about helping them in life. Just because you want to position yourself to win a state championship, there's too many rules being made to kind of facilitate that. State of Florida did this a couple years ago. You get a ship, you get a ship, you get a ship. You got rural and metro. So now we got to sit through 16 games. It's just too much. You can't please everybody. So you got to make some rules. You got to stick with them. You can revisit them from time to time. But at the end of the day, we say down here in South Florida, man, just line it up. Meet us at the 50, toss the coin, kick off, and let's go.
Hey, and that is something. Well, and I've told you, I mean, I don't know what really the difference is in a state like Florida, because it is a case by case basis when you're looking at state to state. But in Florida, if you're a public school and you're saying, well, we don't have the infrastructure that a private school has. Well, I mean, there's public schools that have amenities that would rival some private schools, and they have the funding, they have the community backing to be able to do what they do. I mean, Lakeland went all the way to De La Salle in California. I mean, I can't imagine that happened because De La Salle footed that bill. I mean, Lakeland obviously had to have some help with that. And then you have teams all across the state that are well-funded that are public schools. But then you do have your private schools that obviously have a great alumni base. They get donations, they get sponsorships. And I mean, I just feel like in a state like Florida, if you're going to be really good, I mean, I think you got to be able to get to your community members. You got to be able to find those people or the people that are going to donate money, and you build up your program from there. And I know this bill that may pass, it hasn't passed yet, but people are kind of downplaying the booster clubs helping out. And, I guess I'm one of the people that's like, I mean, what is that going to do? Brandon, I think me and you both know if a team needs a booster club to help pay a coach, I mean, we hear things we don't know. It's not on paper for us to pull a public records request. But I mean, I'm sure some of these teams are paying their coaches pretty well, whether that's on the books or not, if you're a public school, right?
Let me say this, and this will be my final comment. Coaches in all states need to get paid. Football is too long a sport. There's too much involved in it, too much time away from families. You can't be trying to think about taking care of your football team, growing and developing, helping your kids to be recruited, go from high school to college, and also worrying about how you're going to pay your bills. Pay these coaches, pay these assistant coaches. That's bottom line. The booster club thing, that's fine. That's a step in the right direction. But if I go to South Lake Carroll and I talk to the head coach, which I did a few weeks ago, and he tells me he doesn't teach any classes, and his OC teaches one class, his DC doesn't teach at all, and they've got a facility that's as big as FAMU's. Come on, man, that's not. You got to start making some changes. And the state of Florida is just way behind on that. You know what I mean? And so But I will say, under-resourced programs in the public school system, like Miami Central, a lot of private schools didn't want to see, even in this entire South Florida that we live in. And that's because when you get the right people that are moving in the same direction, have the same ethos and just the mentality and the will to win, you can do anything. You can beat anybody. But at the end of the day, that's not for me to decide. I just watch the game, cover the game, and we enjoy it. But, whatever rules are made, let's have the best brand of football possible. Let's resource at every opportunity that we can, and let's feel good about it. Because at the end of the day, this is about the kids. We're talking about the kids in the community. If you take care of the coaches, you take care of the programs, and you resource everybody, then you can have expectations of what the outputs are. And right now, we're kind of doing a coin toss, and that's not fair to the kids.
I mean, hey, I don't know how else you could say all that better than you just did, Brandon. Tell everybody where they could follow you at, and I can't wait for the next game that me and you are going to be at, because I know we'll have some fun conversations.
Follow us on @FootballHotbed on all platforms, @HotbedWorld on TikTok, and me personally @Brandon_Odoi, www.footballhotbed.com, the nation's leader and multimedia exposure showcase platform. We look forward to being on the podcast again, Andy.
Hey, absolutely. And that's Brandon Odoi with Football Hotbed. Brandon and me, I mean, we see each other at state championship weekend. And it's I tell him all the time, I feel like it's Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless about to start arguing, because we definitely get into it a little bit about these matchups. But I think last year kind of quelled the South Florida high school football scene a little bit, because I was stunned when Reigns beat Northwestern, and then Chaminade losing to Cardinal Newman. That was a stunner as well. I wasn't there to actually see that, but when I heard about it, I was a bit stunned. But
talk about the real game. Why don't you talk about Vero Beach blowing it at? Come on, talk about.
Oh my gosh, we don't.
Talk about that.
Oh, we can't. We got no more time. We got to get to Coach Freeman. So, hey, Brandon, thank you so much for being on with us tonight. And hey, that if you didn't like that, I mean, hey, me and Brandon definitely we are entertainment. But next up, we got Mark Freeman of the Thompson Warriors, the #1 ranked team out of the state of Alabama, and they are fresh off of winning the Class 7A state championship from last year. They did it in December. I missed that game. When they just breezed by Opelika. But I mean, I was told, Coach, that when I was there, I guess I must have. Coach, I must have broke a record, because I was told by Trey with Hall Tech that I was the first person to ever wear shorts at an Alabama high school football state championship, because you probably remember that night how cold it was. And the next day when I got to see when Coosa Christian win their state title, I was walking around in shorts. So, Coach, am I just a crazy Florida guy that decided to come with shorts to the Alabama state championships?
I don't know, Andy. It was good to have you there. I know that. And to wear shorts that night, you got to be at least a South Florida guy. But no, it was good and cool that night. And like I said, I know Trey didn't give you a hard time about it, but we were glad to see you, and we all up here appreciate what you do, Andy.
Hey, thank you so much. And this Coach Mark Freeman, once again, of the Thompson Warriors. Coach, you guys are in the midst of spring football right now. And I mean, I want to get to that first and foremost. Just, I mean, how are practices going? And just, I mean, I know me and you talked a little bit about that, but just, how is it for you guys so far?
Practice is going great. We tell the kids to practice like champions. It's the only time really throughout the year that we go one-on-ones like we do as much as we do. During the season, we haven't been in full pads in 14, 15 years. The way that it is right now, they pull their pants up anyway. So by the time you go in, shorts and girdle pads and shoulder pads and helmets, you're basically in full pads, but they don't look at it as though they're in full pads. And so spring to us is a great time to evaluate our upcoming kids. We kind of know what the Seaborns and all of them are going to be able to do, but we're looking for new players to help us next year as far as our young kids. And it's just a great time, and it's going great, Andy.
Who are some of the guys? I mean, so far, who are some guys other than the headline name guys that are starting to Anybody kind of impressing you that you didn't expect?
Well, I mean, you got some younger guys. We got some couple guys playing linebacker. We lost both their inside linebackers. We're looking at a couple of them guys right there. Eli King, a DB that was he'll be a junior next year. He's just raking in offer after offer right now. And we was wondering, was he going to grow? And obviously he grew in the offseason, much stronger, has put on some good weight. His grandpa and his dad both played at Alabama, and he's gathering a lot of offers right now. Eli is. And offensively, we got some new guys on offensive line that are I think we had one guy coming back off that team last year, but we got some guys that's doing a really good job there. And then we got a running back, CJ Calley, got here, and we got just the receivers are mostly back. Dedrick Kimbrough, Darian Mosley, who just yesterday committed to Arkansas, and we got a couple of those guys, and so it's just kind of coming together right now.
Yeah, and coming off of your guys' 6 state championship, and I know a lot of this is stuff me and you have already kind of talked about, but we're putting it out there for the public. And I mean, just for you, like, how is it defending the state championship? What is the process to kind of go through trying to do that again here in 2026?
Well, it's, people ask you all the time, would you rather be on top or would you rather be chasing the team on top? And, either way it is, we're here. And once again, we're going to open the season defending the state championship, which is great. That's what our goal is. And, but there's such really good competitive football, not only in the state of Alabama, but in our region. Just our region up here is brutal. It's, you never get a week off as far as your region play. And then we open up this year with Central, which we've played them, several times in the state championship game. We played them last year. We had to go there last year and played them guys in the semifinals. And Coach and I knew the one could really find games this year. I'd been playing Georgia schools, but for some reason they slowed down this year. I think something in their state is not favorable for them to do that. So us and Central are going to play week 1, and then we're going to turn around and play the 6A state champions, Clay Chalkville, week 2. So, I mean, it starts off fast, and then the region is really good. So, man, Alabama's got some great football teams, as you know.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that week 1 matchup with Phoenix City Central, I mean, that one, obviously a rematch of the state semifinal from last year, which you guys won in thrilling fashion. Just now, obviously, they're going to be under a new head coach, but, I mean, I don't think that changes your guys' approach to them. Just that being the week 1 matchup, do you feel like there's any better game that you could handpick yourself to say, hey, if we're going to start off with a bang, why not them?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's what Coach and I discussed. And, I enjoyed playing Grayson. Back-to-back years, we played Grayson. We played Buford one year. We played Hatefoot Charter out of Georgia. We played at least 4 Georgia schools early in the year like that. And I heard you and Brandon talking about it. We're a little bit behind the 8 ball in that. They can start, I think, end of June, they start having OTAs in Georgia. And we can't, I think we have like 6 times we got pads on before we play our first game. And so the Georgia schools, you got the OTAs, and then I think we catch them week 1 or 2 of their season. So they've got several times of going in that locker room, putting their gear on and playing. And that's okay. I mean, we're going over there to get better. We're not going over there to, come back with a win that we brag about for the rest of the year. Or if we don't go good, we're not going to worry about the rest of the year. We're going to use those moments and those minutes and get ourselves better and come back. But, to have Central that early, is tremendous. And Coach, he's been there before, so he knows what that program's about. And, yeah, you talk about talent every year, and they got a great team, and they got a bunch of guys coming back, and that should be a very exciting game. It's a beautiful place down there, and we enjoy going there, so we look forward to it.
I'd be remiss. You mentioned Brandon. He threw out, and now we know Thompson hasn't been in the Classic, so I guess he's maybe throwing this out for 2027. But could we ever see Thompson play in the Broward County High School Football Classic down in Fort Lauderdale?
I think it's a possibility. We in Alabama, we have to get the 2-year contracts, and if we can make it work where we could come down there. We were coming down there 3 or 4 years ago when all the COVID stuff happened, and I think we were going to play St. Thomas, Aquinas, or somebody, I can't remember, but everything got crazy when all that started going on, and we had a trip to Texas lined up, I think the year before, and it kind of got mixed up on the night we want to play us and the team from Texas, and it was the ESPN game, and we didn't get to go there either. So we're open for anything. Like I said, we're going to go play like Brandon somebody out, go to the 50-yard line, flip the coin, and play football. And it's always a great experience, and you get better from those experiences. And I would love to be part of that one night and come down there and play you guys.
Hey, that would be awesome. I would love to. I'd love to see the Warriors down in Fort Lauderdale. Now we got a question from the chat, Coach. So I'm throwing this out from us. I'm guessing somebody from Alabama wants to ask you this question, but the viewer asks, if you could have any player, and now we're talking obviously totally hypothetical, in a hypothetical world, you could pull somebody from the time machine and bring them to your current Thompson team. If there's somebody from Bessemer Academy, who would you have at Thompson if you could have them?
Could bring anybody back?
Yeah, just one player that you absolutely feel like would be a contributor to your current Thompson team.
It has to be two, because I coach offensive quarterbacks. I'd have to have Talia Tagovailoa, but the guy you go get is Peter Wood.
Oh, all right. Well, hey, viewer, you just heard the couple guys that he'd want to bring back.
He's like my son. He was here. I still keep up with him, and obviously I coach quarterbacks. I still get to see some of the other quarterbacks, but we don't see Talia anymore. So it would be good to have him around. And then Peter Woods is probably the most elite player that I've ever coached, and anybody around here has seen. He just remarkable. Just went first round, and what a football player.
Now, quarterbacks, I mean, obviously you've coached a lot of good ones. This one, I mean, with Trent Seaborn, obviously a headline guy, but I mean, committed to Alabama, and he's got everything out of the way. He can just focus on football. How important is that? Because there are so many players out there right now that they're still trying to decide where they're going to go. I mean, he has that out of the way. He can really focus on the team and just getting this team back to the top. I mean, what is that for him? And just what do you see in his growth and development here during the spring? Do you feel like he can be that much better than he was last year?
I do, because he's increased his strength output in the weight room. Has increased his speed has gotten better this off season. I was looking today at some of our video stuff and keeping up with some of our kids. He's got almost 2 hours of film on Huddle from last week's practices. You know, he's just that unique guy. What a great person he is, and everybody on the team loves him. Everybody in the city loves him, and but yeah, he gets better because he works hard, and he never is content with where he's at. He knows the offense really good. I don't even have to, just ask him and refresh him on things on what we want to do. And he's basically run our offense for 5 years. This will be the 5th year he's run our offense. And so we're able to do some stuff now we was not able to do. He's 205 pounds now, so we haven't ever run him like we really needed to. And if we have to do that later in the year, it won't be something we do early in the year. But as we get down to playoff time, or the games we got to win to get in the playoffs, he's able to run the football. He's strong. He's just a blessing, Andy. And the biggest thing is I enjoy spending days with him. He's such a great person. It's just I enjoy spending time with him, talking football and just talking about life with him.
Well, and you got another great player on the other side of the ball with Cam Pritchett. I mean, the Oregon commit, he's arguably one of the best players in the Southeast when you're talking about defensive linemen. But, I mean, for him, because I got to give the defense some love, where's he at? Where would you say he's at compared to last year? And do you feel like for him, I mean, is he another one that could possibly have an even bigger season than he had in 2025?
Yeah, Cam is special. Cam can do a little bit of everything. Cam can play inside on D-line. He can play the edge. He's really talented, plays basketball, played AAU basketball his whole life. I think this year he did not, to prepare for football a little bit better. But Cam he's bigger right now than he was. He weighs more. He's faster than he was. That's the testament to Jimmy Bunning, Coach Bunning, who does our strength conditioning. The speed that we've increased our players this year the strength. I look at it the other day, the ratios that we've gone up in the weight room and the speed that we've increased, just a testament to Coach Bunning and all our guys in the off season, the way that they perform in the off season as far as they work. And, Cam has to be one of the best defensive linemen in the state this year, if not the best one. And he's very, very active. He's very smart. And there again, he's such a great teammate, such a great person to have around. And we've got a lot of those. I know I keep talking about that, but our team is made up of really good people.
Well, and those good people going to take you guys into the 2026 season here, and it's going to be different in the state of Alabama because for the first time in 104 years, it's not going to be private and public altogether. Now they're going to be split. And I mean, this is obviously a change, maybe not so much for you guys, but some of the schools that are more rural, just in those lower classifications. But I know in talking to you, you've had some thoughts, or you obviously know that this is impacting other schools. Just where do you feel like this shakeup is happening when it comes to splitting the private public schools for the first time in the history of the AHSAA?
Having spent 10 years in private school, I know the ups and downs of that league. And me personally, I hate that they split, because the private schools are going to have so much travel between games, between region games, between area games, wherever they go to. And they really enjoy competing in the public schools. I know that the people I talked to in the larger private schools, they wanted at least an option to stay where they were. It's not like they were winning at that level, like state champions every year, like you could say with their private school, and they get to get all these kids in. We have a problem in our state of people looking at transfers as a bad thing or a good thing. And you and Brandon hit it with NIL and college, the way it is. You got to get your head out of the sand. And these parents, they're going to look around and they're going to go to where there's a brand and there's a product, and they're going to move bonafide move wise, and they're going to make it legal so that their children can come and have a different opportunity at different schools of their choices. But the private schools, they had a ratio, a factor. If you went to private school, it kind of like 1.35 or something. And I've advocated for a year now. Why don't they put a factor on every transfer student, so that now the private schools, really, you couldn't say the private schools had an advantage. If you transfer from a one school to another school, put a ratio on it. And, you hear people say, well, yeah, it's easy for Freeman to say that because they're in the largest classification. Well, the simple thing of that is just go get you a bunch of transfers, and you play in our classification. You'll see that's it. Really, you can't just build your team every year in this classification with move-ins. And there are some, and I know that people are looking and all that stuff, but I just feel like if they put a factor on every transfer kid, then it makes the transfer board equal. And I think you could get the private schools, because in the state of Alabama, there was a couple private schools that in lower classifications, they did win a lot. And I get it. I get that competition, but there again, I'm like you and Brandon was talking about, state championships are obviously you play for state championships, but you also play for the development of your program and your players. When we have kids that play here, the ones that want to go to college, we take pride in that. When they go to college from here, they're prepared to go to college. I've never had a kid call us back in the last 10 years and say, Coach, I was not ready when I got to school. Every one of them say, Coach, it's not as hard as our offseason was at Thompson. And so that does go into high school football. You're with the kids obviously for 4 years of their life in high school here, but you're hoping to put stuff in their life that will go with them forever, whether it's in a football life, which they all in, as you know, and I know. So really you're putting them in a position to be a great husband, father. Obviously people want to do that, but also entrepreneur, somebody that's a great employee, or, just put the dedication, the anticipation of what they got to do to be successful, the awareness that every decision has a response to it. You've got to make great decisions and stuff like that. So I don't know, Andy. I just hate they did it to the private schools the way it did.
And I kind of want to touch on that. Alabama it seems like when it comes to, evolving, or I know in talking with Trey and some of the guys when it comes to their Twitter spaces, Alabama obviously kind of looks at the way that states like Florida and Georgia and I believe Tennessee, they seem to kind of caught up with the times a little bit when it comes to NIL and just kind of some of the other factors that are obviously impacting high school sports just in general. But it seems like it's taking a bit longer in the Yellowhammer State for those things to kind of happen, or maybe kind of to go along with. And it would you just say that's kind of the vibe really is like NIL for that matter? I mean, that's something that obviously still kind of a battle. I mean, I think one story that I was told last week was a coach said he didn't like any of his players on social media, and he didn't want the team to have a social media. He wanted to just focus on football. And my argument was, I think that's a total disservice to the players. I think that's a disservice to the team. I mean, I don't know who the coach is. I'm not saying he's not successful in what he's doing, but I think we live in a day and age where social media helps. It helps your team depending on how you use it. It helps the players because they should be advocates for themselves. But the coaches themselves, or the people that they assign to run their social medias, are obviously going to go out and promote the players. And I don't think it's a negative thing. I feel like that's something that just everybody has to kind of get used to. Is that's word of mouth is great, but that word of mouth now lies with, well, your phone, your laptop, your whatever you go out and promote on social media. I mean, is it just kind of that way in Alabama? You feel like the state is kind of just behind the other southeastern states?
I do. I think we're behind, and I think that there's I just feel like I don't know what the rationale is about where we're at as an association. We got really good people at the association right now. I think we need to restructure some things, the way that you have decisions and you have things come up. If it's important, they can make a decision in one day. But there's a lot of decisions that seem to, well, we're going to get to it at the meeting next spring or something like that. And Andy, as you know, the world don't evolve around 6 months down the road decisions no more. Just like you got coaches at Mully Grub about transfers, you got coaches at Mully Grub about social media. And, you know, social media is not something that I wake up in the morning and I look forward to having to deal with. But as a head coach at a large school in this state, for me to be successful and for my kids and our parents to feel like, hey, coach is doing everything to do us, I have to be involved in social media. My coaches have to be involved in social media. Our program awareness, because the only thing you can do right now is build your brand and your image and your product. And anybody that thinks that you don't have to do that, I think they're getting further and further behind. And you know, there's coaches that feel that way, and they're very outspoken about it. You know, they talk about the transfers. They talk about, you know, it's almost like these guys are cheating that are getting transfers, and parents are looking. And if you're not doing the job that the parents communicate with these other kids around the state, you know, whether it be 707, the camps they go to, or just the parent himself be involved in social media, seeing these schools active on social media, you know, if that bothers you, it's going to be a tough world for you. So you better get yourself adjusted. And I use the thing that Coach Bryant, you know, I remember I was a little young boy in the late 60s when Coach Bryant was at Alabama. And, you know, people talk about, well, the game's passing by. He's getting older. He's not doing this. And Coach decided, hey, I'm not finished coaching. He made a decision, go out west with Darrell Royal and some coaches out there. He learned how to go out there and run the wishbone. He brought the wishbone back to the University of Alabama. In the decade of the 70s, he was the winningest coach in the nation, because that's the one guy that I look to, because growing up, I looked to Coach Bryant. I watched everything he did. I studied him. The couple books I have about coaching are what Coach Bryant believed. And Coach Bryant believed he could take his players and beat you and their players and beat his own players. And what it based it down to was having kids that want to play as hard as they can for you, that know you care about them and stuff like that. So, Andy, yeah, I think we're behind. I don't know what the problem is. I think that we need to look for some people that understand the scope of things around us. We're losing kids right now. We're losing some players to other states over NIL. I'm not advocating for NIL, but I am advocating for some kind of plan here that we can keep our kids. Some kind of plan where in July, these bigger schools, we can have a couple of days in shoulder pads to work on pass protection. You know, it's the world we live in. And for us to go in August, 1st of August, and we got to go 3 days with no pads and then get a day of shell and then you play 15 days later, it's just a bind. And I think there's some changes coming. I think school freedom, school choice is coming. I believe that's inevitable. I believe it's coming. They've just passed a thing this summer or a while back that 2 schools can merge now to form one school system. In other words, 2 cities now I think it's especially for rural schools that they can merge and make a school system of their own so that they're not having to get funding from 7, 8 other schools, which I think is a good thing. I think you could see some bigger communities do that also to advocate their programs. But we do need to look, Andy, and because football is important in the state of Alabama. Just look around and you know that you're here. It's a very important thing in the state of Alabama. Alabama and Auburn have been huge in this state for 40, 50, 60 years as far as the people that follow those 2 schools. And we just need to catch up, Andy.
Yeah, and I'll say just kind of my first experience to high school football beyond my own high school was Alabama high school football, but it was through TV. It was through watching MTV's the Two-A-Days series, and it featured Hoover, Alabama. And I remember watching as a senior in high school. I think I was somebody, if I had the ability to tell my parents, hey, I'd like to move to Hoover, Alabama, I would have, because I just thought that's high school football. And I still think it's high school football. That is high school football, what everybody dreams for. And even in that episode, I believe there was somebody bringing their kid, talking about transferring into the school. And they talked about how kids transferred to Hoover because that was, what you did. You went and moved your family. People were moving their families to go to that particular school because they were obviously developing football players. They're winning state championships. You guys are doing that. And with that, obviously, comes the scrutiny of everything else, the transfers and everyone feeling some kind of way. And to me, it is the world of high school football we're in now. It's something that, I cover. I write about transfers. I write about kid transferring here, there, everywhere. And people will say, why do you write about it? And I'm like, because that is news. No matter what you may think about it, you may think it's the dumbest thing you've ever seen. But in this day and age, maybe 20 years ago, it might have not been a real big story. But I think today, whenever somebody transfers somewhere, it is news, especially when it is a kid that is productive in the previous season, can have an impact on their new team. And we know these things. I definitely can attest to what you said. I think there's a lot more that goes into just you form the proverbial Avengers and you start winning football games. I think there's coaching that goes into that. I think there's the culture with that program that goes into it. I think there's so much more than just, have a bunch of really good football players and voila, a state championship. I think teams have to actually have players and coaches and everybody that like each other and want to work together and be cohesive in what they're doing. So I do believe that Alabama is one of those states that I scratch my head about when I listen to, people like yourself and obviously everybody else in the state kind of talking about how they're behind and, doing that top 5 stadiums out of Alabama and looking at those stadiums and saying to myself, those are packed out on Friday nights. Yeah. You have people coming from all over town to pay to watch those teams play. I mean, how could they be behind any other state with that all going on? So, Coach, I don't know. I guess I'm here to see what happens. I hope there is change coming to the state of Alabama. And I believe, Alabama high school football is some of the best high school football in the country when you look at the totality, from the talent to the coaching to the stadium vibes to the town, just, galvanizing around the program that is there. Because I know that's something else me and you talked about, was a lot of these towns, they need high school football. They need their teams to be around and be present and be somewhat successful. So to me, that speaks volumes to how important it is to Alabama to have high school football kept up, with all the other states. So, but we ran out of time, Coach. I want to thank you for coming on. I'm hoping to see a game in Alabama, specifically you guys. So maybe I'll be there for that Phoenix City Central Thompson game.
I hope you are, Andy. And I appreciate you guys that work so hard for our kids and our programs right now to help support us and put the word out there. And Andy, come up anytime, and we look forward to seeing you. Thank you, guys.
Hey, thank you. And Wayne wanted to say hi, Coach. So he was on the he's listening in and wanted to give a quick hi to you. So
Wayne, hello.
All right. Well, Wayne, hello from Coach and myself. We thank you for listening in, and that is Coach Mark Freeman of Thompson High School out of Alabama. They're 6-time state champions. They're coming off a state championship and got one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and Trent Seaborn, one of the best defensive linemen, and Cam Pritchett. So, hey, if you're a football fan, you're in the Southeast, you may want to go over and check the Thompson Warriors out this season. So thank you, Coach. And, well, we're on to our next and final guest of the evening. And, hey, you've probably seen him on social media. He's posting about the public schools. He's talking about the top 25 schools in the country when it comes to public. And, he chimes in on all the conversations that are going on. He's got a pulse on this. And me and him talk, I don't want to say daily, but probably every other day or almost daily. And we got Alex Gordon of 25 Public High School Football, and he's making his podcast debut. So wanted to bring him on here with us. And Alex, man, great to have you on. And hey,
thanks for having me.
Hey, absolutely, man. And I appreciate you coming on and talking a little ball. And I'm sure there's some people right now that are like, who is he? Who's Alex? Well, you know what? I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about himself. And he's somebody that I believe is doing a lot of research. He's really doing a great job in promoting high school football. We need more people that are really out there talking about the game and really just advocating for it. So, Alex, tell some the people out there what you're doing with high school football.
Yeah, so right now I've just kind of been, kind of did my toes in over the last 8 or 9 months since the beginning of last year. Just kind of going through and learning everything I can about the public school space, because from what I was seeing, especially, with a lot of the major brands, they're looking at the private schools or the big names that, everybody kind of already knows. And I get why. It's definitely the clicks when you talk about IMG Academy or St. Thomas or any like those. But there's also a lot of great stories when it comes down to the public schools and just those hometown communities. And a lot of schools that just don't really get the attention that I think they deserve. And so I just kind of dove into it at the beginning of last year, and I love every second of it. I just love learning about all the different pockets of what's going on in college, high school football everywhere. And there's so much to learn about it. But at the end of the day, it's just something that I think it's kind of getting overlooked, especially the schools where you think of Middletown, Delaware, who's coming off back-to-back state titles. You look at their roster and they have 3 and 4 stars everywhere. And it's like, nobody really talks about them on the national stage. They deserve to have that kind of voice, or that person that's kind of just bringing it out and bringing them up to people that are not in Delaware or the Northeast. And so that's just kind of how I got started, and just taking it from there.
Well, and that's what I could appreciate, and me and Alex can kind of connect on, is there is people out there that are kind of, and I'll say my good friend Larry Bluestein, he messes with me all the time about, well, who's the top 5 teams out of Maine, or who are the best teams out of Wyoming? And I'm always like, Larry, there is high school football played in other states other than Florida. You know that, right? So it is great to kind of chop it up with somebody that also is looking at all the teams in every state. So obviously you're seeing what's going on throughout the country when it comes to private-public debate. Before we get to that, though, I know you got kind of your own idea or on who some of those top public teams are that are in the space of saying, hey, we're nationally recognized, or we're a team that's towards the top of our own state rankings. And I want people to hear from you, and I want to hear, because I'm sure it's kind of changed a little bit since the 2025 season's ended. Who do you feel are
a lot
some
of
of
it
the
has
top?
changed. So a lot of it has changed. A lot of it has stayed the same. But like one of the teams I just brought up is Middletown, Delaware. Especially this week, they've gotten some insane offers, and then they've also had DJ Davis commit to Wisconsin, which is a huge thing for them. But on top of that, they ended up getting another offer for Michael Adams. I apologize if I pronounced that wrong, but they're just stacked all over the place. Tyseer Young also had an LSU offer, which I think is, they said, the first one out of Delaware for LSU or at the SEC school to have. So they're a team that is absolutely somebody that I'm excited to see this year, but I also think that they test themselves enough where they actually will be able to put themselves on a national stage. And then the other school that has just been is not spoken about enough is Basha out of Arizona. The entire Chandler area right now seems to be an absolute hotbed. You even have Hamilton, which they ended up beating Basha last year, and that's definitely a game that they're going to be looking at to get some revenge. But they have 2 5-stars. They have several other 4-stars. And so that's going to be a really big test for Basha. They open up against Chandler, which is an open championship rematch. And then they also have Olu on the schedule, which is a great, public versus non-public. And I'm excited to see what they can do. But they also have 4 and 5 stars everywhere. They're also maybe the biggest offensive line that I'm going to like. Every single person's over 6'3". They have Jake Hildebrand, who's 6'6", 300. And they also just had a commit. They went to Kansas State. And so they're a stacked team. They also just had a Texas running back that just committed yesterday. And so they're definitely a team that I'm going to be looking out for. And then the 2 teams that I love seeing everything about. I can, see everything I can with them is Creekside and Thomas County Central. And I think the storyline that I'm really excited for, number one, Creekside opens up with 2 of the best out-of-state games of the year. They play, Clay Chalkville, the 6A state champion, 15-0 team. They're going to be playing. Also, they're going to St. Joe's, which is my neck of the woods. They're playing the non-public A defending state champions in St. Joseph Regional. And so there's a lot of just good games there. But now, because of the way that Georgia has changed their classifications, Creekside's gone up. They're now both in 6A. And so they're going to end up playing, I believe, in the quarterfinals, if I did the math right on how the playoffs work there. But that game I'm already looking forward to, because I think you could have vibes of like Buford and Carrollton last year, where like the winner of that game is going to be a team that is actually talked about for a national championship. And I know I almost had Creekside last year as, the public school national champion. And those are 2 schools that I'm definitely fired up about.
Yeah, I wanted to see a Buford St. Francis Academy national championship matchup. I mean, I know we got Corner Canyon playing St. Francis Academy in a, de facto national championship by overtime nationals, but I just feel like that would have been so much of a better matchup. You get your public school in Buford against your private school in St. Francis Academy, and they just go at it. And I mean, obviously from a few years ago, both teams don't really like each other. Let's just keep it at that. But I mean, hey, that would have been a great game that a lot of people would have tuned into and would have given us the best of both worlds in a sense. So yeah, I like the shout outs to Middletown and Basha, just because those are 2 of the best teams in those respective states. And Middletown, I'm getting those collaborations. I know you're getting ass on Instagram for them, but I mean, they are getting kids offered left and right. And I love that they go out of state and they look to challenge themselves. Coach Freeman just talked about, they do that over at Thompson. And I think those are the teams that I really, I tip my cap to them. When you're able to kind of go out of your own comfort space and go somewhere else, like Creekside's going to do with St. Joe's, it's a beautiful thing, because we want to see those matchups. We want to see the matchups that we write about, that we say, hey, we wish we could see these. We want to see them come to reality, not just kind of live in our brain and we say, oh, maybe one day. Like, no, let's make that one day an official day that it's going to happen.
Some schools are about it, some schools are not. Like, shout out like Jenks, Oklahoma. They have a hard enough schedule with Oklahoma, like being with obviously Bixby, but they have maybe the hardest 3-game stretch to start with. They're playing South Lake Carroll at the Cotton Bowl to kick off the season. Then they go have a game against Arkansas, and then they play Bixby. So like it's a very hard opening stretch. And then there's other schools that don't test themselves as much as maybe we would like as fans of the game.
Yeah. And you said it. I mean, there's teams that are about to smoke, and then there's teams that are, hey, they're ducking it, right? So it's definitely, it's something that we see. We see that from the outside looking in, and I mean, I think teams don't think we notice that, but I know you've had some. I'm gonna ask you because I know there's some schedules you're like, boo, why? Like, why was that? For you, for public schools anyways, who had the most disappointing schedule release so far? Like, that you're like, you saw the schedule and you're like, what the heck?
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of said it, but I don't get the Bixby part. They don't look. They won 5 straight 6A titles at Oklahoma. At one, actually over that. I mean, but I think it might be like 8 or 9 now. And so it's one of those things where, why are you continuing to just go against the people who are in your own area? And then again, they have Crosstown Jenks where they're going out and testing themselves. So it's not like Bixby can't do it. It's not like Oklahoma has something that's like blocking them from doing it. I don't get why they don't go out and just test themselves, because you're not doing your team a service, or you're not doing your team any favors when you're going out and beating every team by 35. It's the same thing with like Bishop Gorman out in Vegas. Like, I almost don't get why they don't want to leave, the Nevada association, because what does that do for your team when you have 1 or 2 games that may be coming down to a fourth quarter? That's something where like they're actually getting tested at the end of the game. Like, those are all valuable experiences. And when you're a team that's beating up on people who are like lesser than, I just don't really get why you wouldn't go out and test yourselves. But maybe there's something I don't know. But yeah.
Well, I do want to give a shout out to Charles Jones of Central Florida Preps. He sending a hello to us. Hey, and thank you for everybody that's listening in here tonight. 3 great guests. We got Alex on currently here with top 25 public high school football, and Alex, the hot debate. I've already asked the first 2, and I know you've been real vocal about it. I've obviously written about this ad nauseum, and that's this private public debate when it comes to not just high school football, but high school sports. And we see what's going on in Pennsylvania right now, and Alabama has already split it up for the first time in over 100 years. And you got a lot of other states that are really starting to make some headway with this. Massachusetts beginning the conversation of, I would say, at least returning to a Super 8, but obviously the cries are out there to split up private public altogether. Just your take on just what's going on. Everybody's just up in arms about it. And do you feel like there's some big disparity between private publics?
So I think it really is state by state. And so it's definitely not something where every state is uniform, or you can look at everything and be like, oh yeah, this is the way to do it. I just know from like my experiences, I grew up playing in New Jersey. I live in Pennsylvania now. Pennsylvania had some huge news this week where the House ended up passing HB 41 or House Bill 41, which now finally is allowing the PIAA just even look into the possibility of splitting, which when you look at Pennsylvania specifically, I did an article on a couple of weeks ago, but they have one of the highest private equity share of championships, especially when it comes to like the higher 3 classifications. When you look at 6A, 5A, and 4A, you have St. Joe's Prep, who's won 8 of the last 10. You have LaSalle College, who won last year. You only have 1 public school who won the 6A championship. And then you look at the schools last year who, a Peters Township, a Harrisburg, Easton, right? Like, these schools, they're championship quality teams. But when you're going up against a St. Joseph's, St. Joe's Prep, it's like that is an all-star team of the biggest area of Pennsylvania. Like that is an all-star team of Philadelphia. And so when you're looking at trying to just make it a competitive environment, to me, it just makes common sense when you do have these 6 or 7 or 8 elite teams that are just head and shoulders above the rest. And they also have the extra facilities. Like St. Joseph Prep just announced what, a $70 million campus, like new athletic campus. And it's just a different ball game. And I think New Jersey handles it really well, where they do everything, where they basically have like the non-public A, which is for the most part North Jersey schools. You have one South Jersey school right now that's in it, and those teams play each other, and it creates, like what you consider like the top tier state championship in Jersey. But you can't go out, like if you ask Washington Township or Winslow if they won a state championship last year, 100 times out of 100 they're going to say yes, absolutely, because they won their classification. And so now I do think that the conversation is just becoming something where you have the data, you see it all around. You have people like myself who can see from state to state where there's a lot of disparity in certain states that just aren't doing it in a way that's fair to all of the students, I would say. Like every kid, when they go into like summer camp, especially in football, like you need to have that motivation of like, yes, I'm going to get better, but like I'm doing this to try and win a championship. And I want to have that ability. And like right now, I hate to say it, but if you're in 6A and PA, like I hope I'm proven wrong. I think there's some great teams. Like I just think it's gonna be very tough to end up beating whoever comes out of the Philadelphia area for Class A or Class 6. And I just don't think that's the best thing for the kids and the rest of the class. And that's really what it comes down to.
It was $74 million.
Yeah, like that, and like you guys talk about Alabama being behind. I mean, PA is light years behind. Like if I told people in this area, as far as like they have full padded spring practice right now in Georgia and Florida, and they're scheduling games that like could be state playoff previews for the following year as spring games, they would think that's a foreign language. Like that's something that they're not even like thinking about right now. And so there are just certain things that the public schools in PA don't have the advantage of. And St. Joe's obviously does.
Yeah. And I mean, getting a $74 million donation to your school, which part of that is going to go towards that brand new, we'll say, schwanky athletic complex that they're going to get in Philadelphia, because somehow the Hawks have not been playing games on campus. They go elsewhere. They bus out the players to another venue, and they play games off campus, which is
where their campus is. I'm almost surprised it cost them more to be able to build this out, because they are like right on the outskirts of Philly, where it's densely populated. There's high rises next door, kind of thing. And so it's gonna be interesting to see. I know, I understand and appreciate why people go to those schools. Like I'm not, even though I like to speak up for the public schools, there's absolutely a place for private schools and for these schools that will prepare the elite of the elite who maybe are at a 1A or 2A school that don't have the resources where they grew up. But it's just a different ballgame at the end of the day. And people ask me, they're like, well, it's our true state championship if we end up going public and private in PA. I just don't really get it, because then why have any classification at all? Like, why even have 1A, 6A? Like, you want to get 60 to 80 teams that are comparable in a classification playing for a state championship. Like that, to me, is the bread and butter spot. If you're doing it the way it is now, you have a soft championship, because St. Joe's has 2 games a year that they need to win a state championship. Like the rest of it, they can just sleepwalk through, and they're going to be in that spot every year. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on it. It's been obviously a big week just because of the House bill, but I don't even think anything's going to change, honestly. So like, I think all this is a lot of just fun talk at this point. I don't see the PIA doing anything, at least in the near future. But we'll see. I mean, Bob Greenberg, somebody I was going back and forth with early in the week, he ran a poll. I thought it was honestly going to be closer split, because he has more of like the Western PA Catholic side. But almost 4 out of 5, or like 78% voted that they do think it should split. And I was kind of getting the same feedback. So we'll see. But, obviously it has to first go through the Senate. And then obviously the governor has to also sign off on it, which Governor Shapiro is, he's from a Catholic school. That's really all I know about it. He hasn't really said anything about it. So yeah, I think we're still a while away from them even having any chance at splitting.
Well, and I'm sure that's not music to the ears of Old Forge School District Superintendent Christopher Gatto, who, he's sent a couple, we'll just say spirited letters towards the PIA in regards to his thoughts on private public. And yeah, it's definitely been something that it's the quiet part being said out loud, right?
Yeah, I mean, I do get it. That's more of a basketball issue, I believe, where there's a certain school in like 2A out in West PA that has 2 transfers from, like, I don't even know how true all of it is because there's so many different things that come around with it, but 2 overseas players who came in specifically to go there, and the schools in 2A did not look kindly to it. And the thing that I actually think brought it to people's attention more so, and why people actually like have taken the report seriously, was because the players on the team that they beat in the press conference of the state championship were like, yeah, like we like didn't play well, but at the same time, we're all the kids that played like together growing up. Like we weren't the ones that transferred in. And I'm not a coach. I'm not going to tell people how to handle press conferences afterwards, but it was a little bit surprising right after the state championship game, but that made a lasting impression because those kids were hurt. You could tell, man, those kids have played together forever, and they felt like they kind of didn't have a level playing field. And I think it's even a bigger gap in football, but that's another conversation.
Well, and we're going to have plenty of them heading into this 2026 season. But Alex, ran out of time here, man. But tell everybody where they can follow you at. And you got to give Alex a follow. Does a lot of great work.
So at Top 25 Public HSFB. Really mostly on X, a little bit on Instagram, but definitely most of my posting and articles are all on X. So definitely recommend follow me there. Yeah, I mean, we're going to be featuring over like 80 different teams from around the country going into the season, and a lot of like the top, Georgia schools and even some California, like the big guys in California, all public schools. So it's going to be a great series that we're going to start rolling out here in about a month or so, just getting ready for the season. But thank you for having me on, man. And shout out to you too, man. One last thing, everybody, when I first came into this like 8 months ago, you were like one of the first 2 people that reached out to me. Every person I speak to, and I'm not kidding, every single person I speak to is always like, hey, you got to speak to Andy. You got to speak to Andy. And I'm like, yeah, no, everyone says you're the best. Thank you for having me on, man. You deserve a lot of credit for making it like a welcoming community, because Texas people, just, you guys are not welcoming at all. Georgia's great. You're great. And besides that, man, thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And we got to work on the Texas people, right? I mean, I don't know what's going on over there.
Yeah, I don't know either. They don't let me in.
Yeah, they're in their own world. But maybe one day we can kind of get through to those guys. But
maybe.
Hey, but appreciate you, man. Definitely we'll have you back on, and give Alex a follow at his handles. He's gonna have a ton of great content. I know I read a lot of it over and just kind of, hey, I mean, there's somebody I can talk to about some of these top teams in Connecticut and Arkansas and other states.
Daniel
So
Hand.
yes, there is
Don't forget
people
about
that
Daniel
do
Hand.
that.
Going for 15 this year.
Hey, there we go. So that is Alex Gordon with Top 25 Public High School Football. And that kind of wraps up our show here tonight. But we're back next week, same time, 7 p.m. Eastern. We're going to have episode number 4, and already got some really good guests lining up so far. I do know for certain now this isn't a public school. It is a private school. They're out of New York. Going to have Monsignor Farrell, head coach, Rocco Del Piero. He's going to come on and join us. Looking to probably get the legend on, Larry Bluestein, see if can get him from Prep Red Zone. He's He's always a wealth of knowledge. And, we throw in our third guest. I'll get that announced here on the day as I talk to folks throughout the week, because everybody's busy just like I am, and we try to figure that out. But hey, thank you for everybody that joined us here tonight. Got a lot, a few people who shouted out our guests, myself. Hey, come right back, same time, same place, and that's Villamarzo's voice.
Yeah, feel that rumble underneath your feet. Friday night coming, can't be beat. Cleats on turf, hit a whistle, scream underneath those stadium lights, living out a dream. Villamarzo's voice blasting, turn it loud, cutting through the static, standing proud. Rivals on the mic, breaking down the game from coast to coast, spreading out the fame. Talking trenches, QBs with the cannon on, running backs leaving defenders, charming. Who's rising up? Who's got that next star shine? We break it down line by brutal line. Let's go. It's Villamarzo's voice, nationwide sound with a passion for. Yeah, feel that rumble underneath your feet. Friday night coming, can't be beat. Cleats on turf, hit a whistle, scream underneath those stadium lights, living out a dream. Villamarzo's voice blasting, turn it loud, cutting through the static, standing proud. Rivals on the mic, breaking down the game from coast to coast, spreading out the fame. Talking trenches, QBs with the cannon on, running backs leaving defenders, charming. Who's rising up? Who's got that next star shine? We break it down line by brutal line. Let's go. It's Villamarzo's voice, nationwide sound with a passion for. Yeah.